driving the ship.
Hello, welcome to a special edition of Celtic Down Under with Sean today. I've got a couple of special guests here. We've got Colin and Phil Strawberry, who are a couple of Evertonian or Toffees fans who are going to help us preview the game this coming weekend. Just chatting about all things Celtic and Everton, I think, for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Getting ready for the Sydney Super Cup. How you doing, guys?
All good, mate. You?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, a little bit dusty. So just straight off the bat, I know it's kind of one of those questions that seems like it should have an obvious answer, but why Everton? I'd say you probably both got different answers to that question.
Mine was because we were local and we were the first team, so it was like just a family thing. A lot of my family supporters on my mum's side were Liverpool fans, and I just wanted to be something a little different. So I first went to Goodison about 1973, and I was just like hooked. Goodison was like, it's great, it was just brilliant, and it was different. So it was, to me, it was just that straight away the feeling you get when you go to a club, and it was perfect. So it was like, yeah, full on Everton. And then I think for Col, it's because his dad was an Evertonian.
The child abuse, to be fair, and all that put him in. So he got to see all the glory years, and I haven't, unfortunately. So
yeah.
Would you have disowned him if he'd been a Liverpool fan?
Oh God, yeah. I've got son-in-laws that are Evertonians, and the grandkids are all Evertonians, and that's it. There's no swaying on that one. It's just how it is.
It's probably the first question when you ever meet anybody who's from Merseyside, and the first question asked is blue or red.
Blue or red, yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can empathise in a different way. So is there like an Everton supporters club here? Is there enough of you? I know one other guy.
There's a couple of websites of people. I haven't seen that many podcasts, but there's been a few websites about Perth, Poms and Everton and stuff like that. So yeah, you get the odd sort of expat that's doing it, which is really good. But then if you get sort of a local doing it, it's a little bit more weird because they tend to go from like now history rather than stuff that's gone on before and what's the reason why it is as it is right now. So it's a case of just finding a decent website that you can enjoy.
I think a lot of the podcasts we listen to, like Toffee TV, Raw Blue Podcast, Liverpool Echo, they're the main ones we listen to. So
yeah.
Where would you watch a game normally? At home, or would you go to casino or what?
Yeah, home, Optus. Yeah. I think it's because of the time factor. You know, at the moment the games on here in Perth are like 11 o'clock at night, or if you get a 5:30 kickoff, it's 2-3 in the morning. So you tend to have your Saturdays sort of planned around that, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
but mainly Optus.
Yeah.
So just before we move on from Liverpool, what do you make of the friendly derby moniker? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a strange one. Like I can see from a financial point of view, and obviously, Celtic are a huge club, and the fan base is massive. It really is.
I meant calling the Liverpool Everton derby a friendly derby is what they call it.
Oh no!
I hear this. I mean, you watch on TV and you hear on was it Jim Beglin, the greatest commentator in the world, so he likes to think himself. You get to see it's the friendly derby, but don't get me wrong. You have families with blues and reds, but when it comes to it, it isn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's he still has the passion, the fire. Compared to Rangers Celtic, I think there's a lot more animosity in relation to St. Rangers Celtic, but still, when you come to Merseyside derby,
it's changed over the last, say, 7 or 8 years. It's got more nasty than it used to be. Years ago in the 70s and even into the 80s, you'd get families sitting together, and that does happen a little bit, but you tend to get more outside the stadium now, stuff going on that never used to be. It was more when we left England, the derby wasn't nowhere near as friendly as it was back then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it changed.
Yeah, I think
some of the managers have that have come in, mainly from the Liverpool side, some of the stuff they've said, like, call Everton a small club and this, that, and the other. And those kind of things just make it worse because the fans are the ones that carry that forward. They move on and go to different clubs. But it's that, like, then once someone says that, it's there and it's.
I don't think the Rafa Benitez hiding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why he didn't last long at Goodison.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, from what I read, a lot of red cards recently in these so-called friendly derbies. But one thing that was an interesting parallel was that Everton were started up as a kind of Christian religious club. It's, I don't want to say Catholic, but it was St. Domingo's FC. It was a Methodist.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
We had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah, we had this conversation yesterday, because like I remember when I first went to Everton years ago, we used to have the half and half woolly hat, and half was Everton and half was Celtic. And then Liverpool was always with the Rangers side, but then for some reason Celtic started singing "Walk On," which didn't like didn't have me used to it.
Yeah, because what was I going to say? The Liverpool had this anti-Catholic player policy the same way that that Rangers did, and I think Liverpool's was continued up until the 70s or something, until they started signing some players there. One thing we do, even though we do have Walk On with Liverpool, we do both have, it's a grand old team to play for. It's both a Celtic and an Everton. So you'd know more about that going back. Like Phil, we don't really sing that so much anymore at Celtic Park, but that's certainly one that we've had going back, a connection.
So it's just like I've always known from when I was younger that it was always the Celtic were always closer to Everton. So when this game come up, it was, to me, I was thinking, it seems like a good fit for Everton's brand is not as big as Celtic's is worldwide, but especially around you come around Australia and you'll see a lot of Celtic shirts. I'm sure on the day there'll be possibly 80% Celtic fans compared to Everton, even more maybe. But because like it is it's a big club, it's a massive club worldwide, so the following's there.
I think the ambition, if you look at Everton as well, is the ambition is obviously to get to the side of Celtic that's a massive task. But with the new stadium coming through, with the owners at the moment, which is questionable, and with the recent results and the recent manager changes, and the players, and whether Everton can get to that, hopefully. We'd like to think so, but pushing them out as a world brand market like Celtic, that's a hard thing to do.
It's a hard nut to crack.
So the new stadium's going to be ready in 2024, I read, and hold 52,888 people. So the question is St. Luke's going to move with you, or is that going to stay where it is?
That's staying where it is, that's got nothing coming. That's staying where it is, I went down there. I went back home to England back in May, and I went down to Bramley-Moore, which is the new stadium, and it's fantastic. For years of being at Goodison, and obviously revenue is going to increase, but just the facilities that they're going to have and how big it is, it's massive. It's just when you go there and you see the size of building up, you're like, it's really impressive. And Goodison's a lovely ground. It's got great memories, but it's just not fit.
Wooden chairs still. It's wooden. You go in there, and if you haven't been to Goodison Park, it's old. And you can definitely tell it's old. And it's still, as your dad said, it's got a lot of history behind it. But for Everton to move forward, you have to start looking bigger. And where it's located, right on Bramley-Moor, right on the River Mersey, it's going to be spectacular when it's built.
And speaking of, for anyone that's listening that isn't aware, because I certainly wasn't aware, Goodison has a church in the corner of their stadium, like as if you can't get the two stands to join together because there's a church there. And you can confirm if this is true or not, but what I read was Everton can't play games on a Sunday morning because of the Sunday services. Is that correct?
That used to be, it used to be for a long time. I don't think that's changed now, but for a long time, it was like you couldn't get a game of Goodison on a Sunday morning. That's why I think it changed a lot when Sky came in, and Sky was sort of dictating the money, and where Everton had to play on a Sunday. It was like they tried to move the derby a couple of times to 12:30, but it was only because of the fact that service had finished at 10. So I started at 10 o'clock and finished. But
with the recent performances, I wouldn't mind it open up.
It needs something.
That's a good segue. We can talk about the current form. I did check on it. 17th in the league after last night. 3 wins and 5 draws from 15 games this year. 1 win in 8 of your last 8. And back-to-back defeats to Bournemouth. 4-1 in the League Cup and 3-0 in the league. Talk us through it.
No, thanks for It's a strange one, really, because we've had many discussions about it. But I just feel that Everton have been so mismanaged for a long time, and we keep on chopping and changing managers every 12 months. And what happens is the new manager comes in and he signed 2 or 3 players, and the next manager comes in, and we've got this group of players that, to say spineless is a bit harsh, but they just don't gel because they're not all following a certain pattern of play. So Frank's come in and he's tried to deal with it, and he started off with defence. The defence was awful. It was one of the worst I've ever seen at Everton in my whole time. It was just shocking. And I think he's brought a group of players that, you know, he signed Patterson from Rangers. He's a good young up and coming right back, and Tarkozy and Cody at the back are amazing. So he's done really good, and he's brought some good solid midfielders. But creativity wise, we don't create anything, and we haven't really got a goal scorer. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for me personally, growing up with, you know, the likes of Bob Latchford and Gary Lineker and Graham Sharp, all of a sudden we've got somebody that might score one season 20, but the other season 5, 6, 7, and it's not good enough. We need strikers and we need creative players. And to sack him now, which would be the, you know, Ebby's calling to sack, which is, you know, understandable because the results are not good. But we'd go back to being as we were, and who do you replace him with? There's no one we can. We've gone through Ancelotti, we've gone through big names. It doesn't need that. It needs somebody that can have a vision. I would have loved Potter when we had the chance to get him. I think we should have gone then and got someone like him, someone who's got a vision. I'm not sure whether Frank long term, but I think short term he's doing the right things. But the results are not great at the moment.
I think we were speaking this morning, and it was maybe it's just myself, but I feel like Everton have got this fatuation that if you're born you know, Merseyside, born in Liverpool, you have every right, and you possibly got this preferential treatment to play for Everton. So we've got the likes of Tom Davis and Anthony Gordon, obviously homegrown. Tom Davis, I personally feel, is riding off the tailgate of a great goal that he scored against Man City, and then just produces mediocre performances. And then you have Anthony Gordon, who had one alright season, and then is now refusing to sign contracts, creating like an unsettled environment, and is starting to drink his own Gatorade just after one season, which is, again, you know, if you don't want to play for the club, as you know, there's a lot of history behind Everton. You know, we've never been relegated, which is a pretty substantial thing. I mean, unfortunately, we've been trophyless for quite a considerable amount of time, which is too long. But, you know, to go through season by season on a relegation fight after spending nearly $1 billion is inexcusable, and you can start pushing and looking towards the managers and Frank Lampard, but it definitely comes back to the actual owners of the club. And we can stand here, but if any other business in the world, or if you're bringing in wrong management and performance on there, you end up getting fired. But unfortunately, it's the owner.
It's just like I said. It's just Everton. Unfortunately, I've got into the habit of, we've had in the 80s, we had a lot of success in the 80s, and it was a really good setup and everything else. And then since then, we've been left behind, absolutely left behind by City, United, Chelsea, now Tottenham and Arsenal. They've got bigger stadiums, bigger turnover, and they've left us. And now we've got Newcastle. This is obviously Chelsea. So the gap between us and them is huge. And to build that up to get there, people think we can just buy 4 or 5 players and we'll be there in 6 months. It's not like that. It's going to take a long time for Everton to get back anywhere near that. To me, at the moment, I'm always thinking, if we can get to 10th, 11th, which is awful to say that, I'm happy, because I just know that we're so far away from them in revenue, and what we turn over from Goodison, 38,000, and they're turning over 76,000. It's sort of like, in a way, having like, you've got Celtic who are getting like 70,000, and you've got, Kilmarnock maybe getting 10, 11,000 per game. Your revenue is huge, so your gap between them and you is massive.
Yeah.
So that's like us now in the Premier League. There is like definitely a top, will be 7 or 8 now, and the rest are just like scrapping for staying up. Yeah,
so far from it.
Yeah, so we've got to hang in for 2 seasons, in my own personal belief, that we stick to it and get through, and then when the revenue starts improving, maybe then we'll attract better players and better stadium and everything else that goes with it. But at the moment, it's hard to watch. You know, you don't come away from the games thinking, oh yeah, this is turning, and Everton are on the up. They're not far from it.
Well, Wikipedia actually says, and I know that's a pub quiz question, which two teams have never been relegated, but Wikipedia actually does say Everton were relegated in 1930 and 1951. So I don't know if it means never been relegated in the Premier League era or something, or it's just Wikipedia wrong.
Yeah, no, that'd be right. It was only since I've known them, we've flirted about 2 or 3 times with it, but not really. Yeah, not having that. Like last year was bad, and there was one time in Wimbledon, I think it was 80 something, and that was really bad. So those are the bad ones.
Last
year was the worst. I think that was the worst because I just thought they were that bad. They've got to go get out. They were really weird.
For anyone,
I said before, he's done some good things, and defensively we're a lot better. I know the last 2 games have been awful, but defensively we've been pretty good. But we just can't score. There's no one in the team who takes shots outside the area and does stuff, and it's like, Colin's right about Andy Gordon. Believes in his own hype, I think. We should have sold it for 60 million.
To give a brief summary of the history of Everton's success, it's 9 league champions. Last one in 1987. Last trophy in 1995 when he beat Man United 1-0 in the FA Cup. Paul Rideout goal. I still remember that game. But the highlight, I believe, from what I'm led to believe, was the 1985 European Cup Winners' Cup. We had 2 Scottish strikers, Alan Gray and Graham Sharp, up front. That's the so-called Howard Kendall era. And since then, since 85, 87 league championships, there's just been 1 FA Cup. And I think the highlight since then was a 4th place finish, wasn't it, with David Moyes to get a Champions League qualifier?
Yeah, I think the 80s one where you when we won the Cup Winners' Cup and we won the league and we won an FA Cup. That team they had then was under Howard Kendall was massive. It was a great team, played great football. And then obviously we were going to go into the European Cup and we were already league champions and Cup winners. And then Heysel happened and we all got banned for 5 years. And then that Everton team just got literally broke up. It was shit. Just manager left, players left because they wanted European football. And the club never really recovered from that era. It was, at a time when we should have gone on further and further because we were just so good at that time that it just...
I think that comes out, and then I think that then breeds that reputation that Everton fans are bitter. But it's, I don't know, it's like City at the moment, then being banned from Europe, and then having 5 years, and then all the players, Haaland disappearing.
5 years.
And then you have to do that rebuild. I honestly don't think Everton has ever recovered since then. To be fair,
no.
When you do lose great players like that, even I know only Lineker came over for the season, but still, he's one of the brightest talents at the time. You know what I mean? And then you got told he can't play European football, and then he bailed.
There you go.
Yeah, so
it's the money, isn't it? It is that money, and you need, like, if you've got owners of the club and they're going to invest in the club and have a vision, then that's so important. But we had Bill Kenwright, and he had really no money. He was a fantastic Evertonian, loves the club. No, you can't deny it, but he just hasn't had the funds to push Everton on at any point. David Moyes was scrapping around for years with like little money to spend on a squad, and yet he'd done a great job with what he had. But if he'd had that kind of money that our managers we've had over the last 5 years have had, who knows where we might have been a far better place. But yeah, for years.
So you're saying you want David Moyes back then?
Okay, I was never a great fan of David Moyes, but he always, it was like if we were getting beat 1-0, he'd take the 1-0 rather than say, okay, put players on, we'll win, try and get 3-1, or we get beat 3-1, it doesn't matter. He didn't. He was he's gone dour, but he's done a great job at West Ham, and they've had one half a season that's been bad, and he wants to do it, so I sack him. So if he came available, I think he'd be one of the people Everton would be looking at. And same with Martinez. I think if Martinez leaves that Belgium after the World Cup, I think he might be a name that might come up for Everton again. But I've got a feeling that I don't think Frank will last. I think he'd be gone before the World Cup's over, myself personally. I think they'll look at it long term and just think that they can't be hovering around that again. But it's got to be the right one next time. It's got to be somebody that can actually really steady this ship and just...
I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
There's that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Hazel when you won the league and then you couldn't play in Europe because of Hazel. Yeah. And it was also, I also noticed that Everton were champions when both World Wars started as well. So it seems like
so it's not a lucky team. To say the least.
Yeah, it's like, we're the best team in the country. Oh, let's have a world war. We're doing it again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Let's start it off. So we're ever getting near the top again. Start panicking. Yeah, something's going to happen. Yeah,
so let's look at the current players that are going to be coming down to Sydney. So I've got on my list 4 Everton players going to the World Cup. Pickford and Cody in the England team, Onana for the Belgium team, and Gueye in the Senegal team. Celtic have got 4 going to the World Cup, and Juranovic, Carter-Vickers for Croatia and USA, Maeda for Japan, and Moy for Australia. I don't know if this is still current or not, but I've got injuries to Ben Godfrey, Mason Holgate, Doucouré, and Andros Townsend. So how do you think the squad that comes into Sydney will look for Everton?
Doucouré's back. He's back in. He played in the Bournemouth game, the 4-1 game. Yeah, and he was on the bench yesterday. Godfrey apparently is not far away. Townsend's not far away. I think that Pickford's going, and we've got Begovic in goal. So they've got like sort of a decent team coming down, and they've got some really good youngsters coming through. Cannon, Warrington. They've got some really good, and obviously they've got Garner, who they signed for Man United. So they've got some really good players there that will fill in. But the worrying bit for me with the game against Celtic is he put this team out against Bournemouth and lost 4-1. And Bournemouth made 9 changes. So that tells you that the players, this second stream is not good enough at any level. And the players there, some of them are coming, like Michael Keane, they're all coming to the end of the contracts, which they had huge contracts at Everton and wouldn't move on. So that's like dead wood we have to get it off. But you'll see when we play Celtic, the motivation for them is zilch.
One thing I want to know, though, I mean, obviously, by Ange, I can't pronounce his second name, he's come into Celtic and he's had some experience, but that's one hell of a step up to go to Celtic and then just absolutely dominate the league and have the whole. What was the difference? What did he do? It's just such a jump, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, we'd lost 3 of our first 6 games, and then we still won the league somehow. Yeah.
I remember when he came, it wasn't like a big appointment the Celtic wanted, was it?
No. Well, what was supposed to happen was Eddie Howe was lined up, and then none of his backroom staff went, or some or all of his backroom staff didn't want to come, so he just backed out at the last minute. So we went to the quick shortlist and quickly appointed Postecoglou from Japan, and everyone was like, "Who is this guy?" Well, not everyone, excuse me. Everyone outside of Australia was like, "Who is this guy? What's going on?" And it bit of a shaky start because he started late, and then since October of last year, we've just been absolutely flying and just killing everyone.
Is it bringing youth in, or is it just signings, or just using the same team?
It's good signings, yeah. He's been picking players from Japan and some other countries. You know, he's talked about trying to get an advantage by tapping into markets that other people aren't. In that sense, Brexit has kind of helped, because before Brexit, we had these kind of restrictive work permit policies for signing players outside of the EU. And since Brexit, every player that comes into Scotland now is a foreigner and has to get a work permit. So it's kind of more relaxed rules across the board rather than encouraging the signing of EU players, which is what has happened in the past. So that's kind of benefited us at the same time.
The players that you're going to lose for the game against Everton will be big losses.
So Carter-Vickers definitely.
Adam Boyd was quite good, wasn't he? I remember him being a few years back for Australia and stuff, and he was a talented, centre mid kind of thing, attacking mid. But
I don't think he'll be a huge loss. I think our captain being injured, Callum McGregor, that's a big loss. Carter-Vickers is the stand-in captain, and he's going to the World Cup, so he's going to be a big loss as well. But I think apart from that, there's no real great loss. The one player that we have in common in the current squads is James McCarthy, and he is pulled his hamstring, so he won't be playing.
Injured again, is he?
Yeah, he's injured.
He was always injured for Everton. He was now.
Mhm.
He was a great player when he played. He was such a combative player. He was great, but keeping him fit was the hardest bit of all. You know what I mean? It was a different level for Everton. But when he did play, he was a full-on player, a really good full player.
He was a very unimaginative signing for Celtic, and for some bizarre reason, we signed him as a 30-year-old on a 4-year deal, and everyone was like, "What?" And then, so we've gone for another 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm interested to see what the atmosphere is going to be like though with Western Sydney Wanderers. Obviously, they got themselves a little bit of a fan base that likes.
It won't be nothing. It won't be nothing when Celtic go. I remember years ago we used to live by Tranmere Rovers, and the team you don't like to talk about came down to play Shamrock Rovers in the European Cup. And they literally took over the whole town. They took 60,000 down to Tranmere. It was only like 15,000. It was crazy. So I know Celtic are saying when they go to big European games, it's huge. Yeah.
How many Everton fans should we expect to see in Sydney? What do you reckon?
Oh, well, my son-in-law and my grandson are going. So there's two. I don't know. There's a few Evertonians knocking around. I'd say a couple of thousand, maybe 2,000, something like that, 3,000. Depends, really. I don't even know from the Sydney side. I know from our side. When we've been to watch Perth Glory, we've all gone with Everton shirts. There's been a few knocking around. But I don't think on the level what Celtic are going to have. Because that's just like...
Yeah, no. It's a 85,000 seat stadium, and it's not going to sell out, but I would expect Celtic to bring about 40 or something like that.
Didn't they sell out the G down in Melbourne when those lot across the park, they came over and I think they sold out. I'd like to think fucking Celtic are going to put
Celtic will, yeah.
Yeah, Celtic will.
I think Celtic will. You'd be surprised. I think, yeah. I think it'll be a sellout. I think it'll towards the day it'll be. Yeah.
You reckon?
Definitely. I think because you'll get people that'll go that are just to watch the game of football. But I think, like I said, with Celtic's draw, it's like you said before when we used to say about Celtic coming and Rangers coming into the Premier League, and people go, "Oh, they couldn't cut it," but it'd take about a year or two, given the money that the Premier League clubs are getting, and the pull that Celtic have. They've got a massive following, and so have Rangers, but they've got this. When they go away, they take thousands and thousands. And similar to what Everton do. When Everton are one of the best supported away teams in the Premier League. We go every game, home and away, and we're just like, it's full. You can't get a ticket for any game. We took 1,500 down to Bournemouth on a Tuesday night, and it was just, unheard of. For Bournemouth, they were like, it's a cup game, it's the third round of the Carabao Cup. So whenever Everton go away, they do take a lot, and there will be pockets of Everton fans, but not. I don't think it'll be like 80-20% to Celtic fans on the day.
Does Paul McCartney go to all the away games as well?
He's a board Everton, I think. Yeah, they're like Cilla Black and all them. They all say Jimmy Tarbuck. Oh yeah, we love Liverpool. They've been there for years.
Was it Sylvester Stallone?
Sylvester Stallone, yeah.
And he's like, yes, he's like the newest Everton fan. So yeah,
he was filming a movie at Goodison, wasn't he?
Creed. Yeah, they filmed Creed with Tony Bellew. And
it
was all like, he was like, oh, I love Everton. It's like this and the other. He's never back since.
Celtic got a few famous fans as well. So
you watched Stewart, haven't you?
We've got Rod Stewart, yeah.
The famous Scotsman from London.
Exactly.
Someone came up on my Facebook the other day. It was Rod Stewart doing the draw. Was it like the Scottish draw?
Oh yeah, when he was drunk.
And he was just like #1. And I was like, okay, now someone's been on this. Someone's been on the sauce.
Yeah. It was so funny. Yeah, there was a few Celtic fans played for Everton as well. We had Pat Nevin was at Everton.
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney's an alleged Celtic fan. James McFadden, they all played for Everton as well.
Yeah.
Shane Duffy, 5 games for Everton.
Duffy, yeah, he did. Yeah. He never got a look at Goodison at the time. I think he left and his career grew after that. But he had a spell with you, didn't he? Came back up last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, we didn't do so well. He got kind of chased out of town, but it didn't really suit our style of play.
One shock coming to you was Joe Hart.
Yeah,
I think he was like at one point with Man City, he was like the golden boy, and then he just tailored off going to Italy and everything else, and then So interesting how he got on at Celtic, really.
He's been getting some unfair criticism in the last few games, but he's pulls off some world class saves at times, and he's just a great character to have around. We're pretty lucky to have him.
Experience wise, massive experience.
So here's one. If you heard of, I'll see if you've heard of this guy. We had a Lisbon Lion. So when Celtic won the European Cup in 1967, we had a player that wasn't starting that day, but had played in previous rounds, called Joe McBride Senior. And the reason why he's called Joe McBride Senior is because his son, Joe McBride Junior, played for Everton.
Played for Everton in 1978. Joe McBride.
Says here 79 to 82.
Yeah. He was a small, slight winger. Yeah, but really quick. And he was like, he was loved at Everton. Joe McBride. Yeah,
interesting.
That was like the time when, like I said, when we weren't that very good. We were building up to it, to Howard Kendall era. But Joe McBride, yeah, remember him well.
There was a few others. We had Bobby Collins, who played quite a lot of games for Celtic and Everton. Alan Stubbs, who left Celtic for Everton. Thomas Gravesen. But apart from that, there's
Tommy G.
Yeah,
Collins was great. I mean, I like Collins. He was a cultured player. I think it was the time when it was Paul Lambert and him when he played at Celtic. But he was a great player.
That's... Oh, yeah. Actually, John Collins. I forgot about him.
John Collins. I was going to say,
you had a share, John Collins.
And first ever share was John Collins.
And Tommy Gravesen was brilliant. He was like a great player for Everton. Solid. And that's the kind of player Everton loved. Everton loved like the Peter Reid. That kind of got stuck in and won the ball and done all the dirty work for the more flair players to get. And we haven't had that for years. We haven't had it at all. We've missed it so bad. And you need to have something like that, like the enforcer kind of thing. But the game's changed a lot now. It has. But I think that Jude Bellingham for England is coming through. Has got that kind of stature in the game at such a young age. But we could do with someone like him. But I don't know, for 120 million for him.
You had quite a lot. You've got a lot of players that have come from the other side of the city, which is surprising given the kind of common history. Like Gaza. I guess that was the other way. But Stuart McCall, Michael Arteta, Stephen Naismith, Duncan Ferguson, all those kind of players. David Weir played for both. Andrew Kanchelskis.
There was lots, yeah. I mean, one of the sort of unsung heroes, for me, to come from that side was Stephen Naismith. He was a great player, and the stuff he'd done off the pitch as well for the community was just phenomenal. He was a great player and a great person.
Rock up on Christmas and just used to rock up to council houses with the homeless bags of food, and then that was the thing.
He was great. Yeah. But he was such a good player. He come on for Everton as an impact player. But Everton have had a lot of history with a lot of Scottish players, and obviously we had Walter Smith as manager for a few years. So there's been that Scottish connection along the way.
James McFadden. What happened to James McFadden?
Yeah, he went to
Motherwell, didn't he?
He was from Motherwell, yeah.
Yeah. And that's going down that route. But yeah,
there was the one that played for Rangers and Everton that lives down in Perth now, Gary Stevens. I don't know if you.
Yeah, there's a nickname for him. We were saying on there now.
I was playing in his fundraising game last year when they had the Celtic Rangers.
His son who sadly passed away, was it?
He went to and it was Trevor Stephen as well. He ended up going up to Scotland as well from Everton.
Yeah, Trevor Stevens,
Trevor Stephen, they were both up. But Gary Stevens was a good solid right back. He was in that famous Everton team, winning stuff, and was part of it all. But they ended up going to Scotland. So there's been a few over the years. And we had Andy Gray, obviously.
Yep. So if somebody challenged you, who would you say is your favourite ever player? If somebody challenged you?
Mine?
Just both of you.
Bob Latchford. Bob Latchford for me.
Okay.
Yeah. He was the ultimate striker. He was strong, headed volley it, score goals for fun, and he was my idol as a kid growing up. I know we've had some more flair players going on, but he just as I played football as I got older, he was the fellow that I modelled myself on. I wanted to be like him and play me football like him. He's just and I met him about 5 years ago, and I was much taller than that. When I see him now, he's getting older. I was like, Bob, he's like a little fella. But he was such a great player for Everton. And he was.
I don't know. The name that keeps on coming back in my head is Tim Cahill. I mean, I grew up obviously watching him and everything else, but basically, and then you've always got big bad Dunk Ferguson and everything else. He was also I was part of the generation growing up watching him. But Tim Cahill, he had that moments of brilliance. He was amazing in the box. Everyone was terrified and when his head got onto the ball. But it's his little niggles that I used to love watching play, wind the other team up. He'd beat somebody up in the air and then he'd pick them up and tap them on the back. And just, he was very, very smart player. And yeah, but Christ, I mean, his dad is Leighton Baines. I used to love watching Leighton Baines. He was
well, kind of the old team.
I know.
I go through hundreds.
I know,
together,
but you grew up watching the 80s, so they won cups. I've just gone there and just scored magical goals, and that's it. So I told you, it's child abuse.
That's it. Yeah. I'm going to inflict it on the grandkids now.
I know. Yeah,
they're all going to have shirts like, you're Everton fans. That's it. Suffer like the rest of us.
So apart from obviously being diehard Everton fans, is there any other teams that you kind of root for? Any in Scotland?
Not so much. No, I watch. Obviously, it's Scottish football. Although I watch in the derbies, and it's one of the derbies I would have loved to have gone to see. Celtic and Rangers, without a doubt, that would have been like high on my list of doing it. I used to follow Tranmere Rovers by us, where we used to live. So they were like it's always different division. They were my favourites, and yeah, it's sometimes difficult to like pick another team. Like in Australia, we're close to Perth Glory, but I haven't got that pull to say like, oh, Perth are my favourite team or anybody else in the side.
It's kind of
different. Yeah, go watch the games, but not real get involved. But yeah,
I didn't mind. I don't mind Tottenham. And I think it was Tottenham's because of Gary Lineker, Jurgen Kid Klinsmann. They had some great players, and yeah, you look at them now. They are a team there. They had Darren Levy, and a lot of people have different opinions about him, but they have waked up, and they are a progression. But I don't know. I mean, playing against them, obviously, you want to beat them. That's a given. But yeah, I think we grew up right next to the Tranmere Rovers, but unfortunately, a lot of Tranmere fans had Liverpool shirts underneath. When
that doesn't help. But I think, like you said, Tottenham. I think if I had to go back as a kid, the other team I used to like watching on telly was Tottenham with Glenn Hoddle and all them. They were a special team there. So that would possibly be
Hoddle and Waddle and
yeah. They were great. Glenn Hoddle was just on a different level at that age. He was such a great player. So that'd be the way.
They were always a kind of flair team that didn't really win anything in that kind of era.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's Everton. We'll never win flair though. We still win nothing. Yeah.
Do you know Poye, all great players, but not really got the winning in the DNA.
Do you ever think when people say about Celtic and Rangers coming down to the Premier? How do you feel about Celtic coming into the Premier League, and where you think how they get on?
To be honest, I'm quite happy to stay. I kind of don't see it happening. I feel like there's a kind of more of a top-down restructuring going to come with this European thing that's really going to make the kind of Premier League thing moot, to be honest. To be honest, even if they do start a European Super League, I'd be quite happy to just stay as is. I do enjoy winning things.
That's it.
Like if it happened 20 years ago when like the English football was... I know Man United were dominating it back then, so you can't really say it was fairer, but like it was fairer relative to other leagues in Europe, and it was more interesting to me at that time. But now I just kind of enjoy, like I'm enjoy just setting records in Scotland,
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think a lot of fans would. If you're in a sort of way we are, like Celtic and Rangers are going to be the only two that's going to push for any kind of trophies, and maybe they might get an Aberdeen or a Hearts or Hibs every now and then get a cup, but it's predominantly you two. And I think what we've got in the Premier League now is very similar. That they talk about the top four, and then as soon as someone like Liverpool drops us 8, it'll be the top 8. It'll be whatever the big clubs of Liverpool, United, City, Chelsea, now Tottenham and Arsenal, are going to throw Newcastle in. It'll all be based on that group of teams, and the rest of us have just got to scrap around. And we can't afford to compete with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unfortunate bit about it. So every year, when people say, "Oh, you haven't won nothing since 1995," well, we haven't got the revenues to win to get the players in who we think we're doing well. And then now Newcastle come along, and they're the richest club in the world.
Yeah,
and they are going to be bouncing for the next 10 years. So where do you put yourself then?
The only way to upset the apple cart is to get that Summon Out oil money, right?
That's it. That's the only way you're going to get it. Or this European Super League thing takes off, and they all move on, and they leave a load of us left behind. And I think I can also see possibly then there being a mix up with all the clubs, with Celtic and stuff like that, if Celtic aren't involved in it. But I think there could be something there, because I think if you take Celtic and Rangers out of Scottish football, then it's dead. Absolutely dead.
I mean, growing up watching, I used to watch a bit of Scottish football as well. But the difference between Rangers and Celtic and the rest of the league is massive. Do you reckon there's a possible way to bring that, bridge that gap a little bit more? So there is a little bit more competition, because it's always Celtic and it's always Rangers whoever wins the league.
It's the size of the size of the ground and the fan base. Celtic and Rangers could, like I said, Aberdeen and possibly the third team, maybe Hearts.
Aberdeen and Hearts are pretty much, but it will never be bridged. No.
Yeah.
Dundee United for a while there, but it's game's a bogey. Money's going the way it's gone now. They used to split gates, now they don't. It's never going to recover from that. So simple as that, really. Right, guys, it's been great talking. Do you have any messages for anyone that might be listening over in Sydney? That should go out on Friday, just before the game.
No, we're just going to hide and just check the results tomorrow morning and go, oh, God, no. I've got a feeling it depends what he does with it. I think, there'll be a lot of youngsters playing for Everton that day, because I think he's tried the second string. So I'm just hoping we put a decent performance in and it's a good game and everybody enjoys it. That's the main bit. I'm
confident you'll be welcome in the Celtic bars.
They will be, they will. That's one thing that'll happen. There won't be enough that stuff going on. There'll be a good banter with a lot of them, I think.
Yeah.
As long as there's any reason, there's not a history of any kind of animosity. I think
Scousers get on pretty well.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So, we all hate the Tories.
That's it, mate.
Yeah. Oh.
So good luck to you lot anyway.
Right.
I'm not going to say I hope you win, because I don't, but I think the Blues will hopefully put up a good show. We'll be happy with that.
I think, but I still think Celtic will probably win like 4-1 or something.
I think so. I'll go more like 3-1 myself. I think with that, I do. Yeah, I'm a realist. These all think that I go against my own team. I don't. I just see it as it is. I just think we'll try a lot of young players out, and he needs to try and get a formula together quickly. If he stays.
Being the optimist, I'm going 2-1 Everton against Celtic. Anthony Gordon's going to shut me up and score in the last minute.
We'll see.
Contract rebel Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. That's him. Oh, hi.
Right. I better wind up there, guys. If anyone's still listening, probably not at this point. 43 minutes in. But thanks very much for talking to us. Hopefully, we'll go out on Friday just for the game, and I'll send you a link over. Okay.
Yeah, great stuff, mate. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Hail.
Hail.